Hello, it's Gareth here, and it's Somewhere on Earth. It's Tuesday, the 28th of January, 2025. We're with the Evergreen podcast community. I never get bored of saying that. I'm very proud to be with Evergreen. And I'm here in London. We have another voice, as you'll hear, from Nairobi today. Yes, with us today is Wairimu Gitahi. Hello, Wairimu.
Hello, Gareth. Nice to be here.
Yes, it was fun last week when we got into the subtleties of language and culture and communication. It went very deep, so we'll see where it ends up today. And, well, here we go. And coming up today, we're going to tell you about the drone that weighs less than a gram. Yes, it's an amazing robotic insect, and we have one of those wow, would you believe it kind of interviews with one of the MIT researchers responsible. And we're tracking down tech for good this week, and where better to look than the world's biggest tech fest. Yes, we'll hear about a step forward in walk-in telemedicine, and it's all right here on the Somewhere on Earth podcast. So then, what about that drone? It's about the size of your thumb and it weighs less than a gram. An MIT team is working on robotic insects that could, among other things, act as pollinators in vertical farms. You know, these farms where crops are produced inside tall structures with optimized growing environments. Now, creating a flying robot so small is a very big engineering challenge. For one thing, you need to do away with the rotors, and instead you have little beating wings, which is fine until you find that the wings keep snapping off at the hinges. Not good. So to find out more about how the researchers stopped the wings falling off and overcame a whole load of other hurdles, I've been speaking to co-lead author Suhan Kim.
You can think it as we are developing a smallest size drone in the world. So typically, drones are using motors that's called electromagnetic motors with propellers. And then what happens is that when motor gets smaller, their power density drops by quite dramatically that in a certain range, we cannot really reduce the size of the motors to use as the drones. So our approach is that we first of all make very tiny artificial muscles using soft material. And then the weight is around like zero point 0.1 to zero point 0.2 grams and then size about like 1 centimeter. And then using that power dense artificial muscles, we combine flapping wing structures so that we can imitate like flapping wing systems in natural insects. And using all those like mechanical techniques, we can make our system fairly small, maybe like size by 4 centimeter by 4 centimeter square. And then the weight's about 0.8 grams in total.
Wow, less than a gram, about the size of your thumb. And so you're able to achieve such a small drone by, as you said, artificial muscles and a flapping wing. That's the key important point, isn't it? So it doesn't have a little tiny rotor on it. It does flap and it looks like an insect, basically. It's like a mechanical insect.
Yeah, so I mean, we don't really try to look exactly the same as the insects, you know. So if you see our drones, it has like four wings, whereas our model is kind of like honeybee styles. Only has like two wings, and then weight scale is a little different as well. Like honeybees usually weights around like zero point 0.2 grams, I think, but our robot is obviously like heavier than that, like 0.8 grams. But we do really focus a lot on like getting a lot of clues or hints from biology where like how those their flipping wing works or what is their like optimal flipping frequencies, flipping phases, so that we can have our robot more optimized by taking clues from the nature. But we don't really try to be exactly same looking as the insects.
Yeah, no, sure. So, for instance, one thing that you've been doing as you've been trying to improve on your previous iteration is to pay a lot of attention to the hinge on the wing. Because the wing's obviously flapping. The hinge is a weak point, potentially, isn't it? So, what have you done to improve that?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. So that is kind of like main improvement we've done in this paper, you know, the upcoming paper. Um, So throughout really numerous robot testing with original version of our robot, what we figured out is that so our original robot structure was that the hinge was located in the base of the wing, and then the wing span was in the entire like wing length, and then that created a lot of like torsional mechanical stress on the wing hinge material. So what we figured out is that if we can elongate the hinge along the wing leading edge all the way along the wing area, that makes our center of hinge and the center of pressure on the wing very close and reduces the mechanical stress by a lot. And then that actually worked out. And then that actually made our lifespan of our wing and wing hinge structure fairly long as well.
And we can see the results. You have some remarkable video of the robotic insect moving, and it can fly aerobatically, can't it? You can be very accurate about how it can fly. It can even do like a little loop the loop. So tell me about how agile it is.
I want to emphasize two things, especially from our previous robot. So the first thing is the very important thing is our lifetime. So what happens for the most of the robot hardware labs or robot hardware research is that the result of control is significantly influenced by the parameter tuning of the controls. So, and then that really requires really numerous iterations of experiments. So what I would say, what we actually did here is that we actually took huge advantage of having a long lifetime. So by mate Nemo, who is also the co-first author of this paper, he spent a lot of time tuning the parameter of the robot when robot follows the trajectory. So that was the key point that Nemo was able to get very precise trajectory tracking controls. And the second thing is that our robot from the previous version has a smaller inertia. That means that the weight is kind of similar, but the mass is concentrated toward the center more and more so that the robot can rotate way faster than before. So those are the key features that we could be able to make our robot more agile and more precise.
Yeah, so it can fly faster than the fruit fly, and it can hover for about a quarter of an hour, which is a massive improvement on what you managed before. It's a big technical issue getting a robotic insect like this to hover. Now, which brings me to why it might be useful. What is great about this agile robot, mini insect robot, with its ability to hover?
Yeah, so well, when it comes to like use case, we actually compare our robot with commercial drones. So first of all, it's very fairly like small size, and then the second thing is it's very lightweight. Our system right now is only zero point 0.8 grams, and then like commercial drones are somewhere within like tens of grams at least, or hundreds of grams. So um, what we actually push forward in our article for our future, one of our potential use case was artificial pollination. So pollination, if you think of pollination, the robot has to interact with like flowers or leaves, which really requires very delicate interactions. So in those cases, it's very hard for conventional drones to achieve. So that can be a potential use case of our robot. And then some other things might be some inspection type of missions. So if we want to inspect somewhere inside like airplane turbines, obviously larger robot cannot really get into it. And as well, it's like if the robot goes in and if it fails, it might be very dangerous. So we can also reduce that like failure cost of the inspection as well, potentially.
There you go. That is Suhan Kim telling us about that robotic insect. What did you think, Wairumi?
I think it was very interesting as I thought about it, especially from an African perspective, and also in many countries that suffer, undernutrition or hunger, or severe climate change, or things to do with droughts or natural calamities like floods. I see this as an opportunity to be able to allocate resources, food, where it's needed. Yeah, of course, there is the other argument of why, for example, spend so much time and resources in doing something of this kind while you could just spend it in trying to mitigate issues to do with climate change, or directly or directly just work on making these areas that are affected by drought and so on, making them much more conducive so that you can grow, food for those who need it most. Someone would argue that, but all in all, I do see a place for this as well. Of course, they still have challenges, when he was mentioning something to do with the insects, with the bees, they still move faster than what they have created or work better. But, proof of, nature is always quite, perfect in its own way. But I still think that there is a good space for this kind of technology to help one of the world's greatest problems.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And just before we leave that story, I thought I could give you some fun facts about these robots as well. This robot we've just heard about reached an average speed of 35 centimeters per second, which is the fastest flight that researchers have yet reported. And they're still trying to get the thing to land on the center of a flower, because that's what you'd want for pollination. You want to be in the center of the flower. So that's one of their next aims, to make it do that. So, and then a wider context around food security, global hunger, and of course climate change as well, which you brought to us there. Thank you so much, Wairimu. Well, now, guess what? We have a new reporter in our midst. Oh, yes. Let's hand you over.
Hello, I'm Jez Donaldson, and I've just come back from the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. With more than 140,000 attendees, it's the biggest show of its kind in the world, showcasing the latest in tech gadgets. But I didn't go in search of new toys. I was looking for stories about tech that'll make a positive difference to people's lives. Over the next few weeks, you'll be hearing about what I've found. First, we're going to meet a company called OnMed. They're building standalone hybrid telemedicine booths that can be plugged into any power socket somewhere on Earth. You can then be seen by a life-sized medical professional on a big screen right in front of you.
Hi, I'm Karthik Ganesh, and I am the CEO of OnMed. We are a technology and a tech-enabled hybrid care company, and hybrid care is essentially the amalgamation of traditional care, which is care in a clinic-based setting with all of the comprehensiveness that you would expect from it, and telemedicine with the rapid scalability that it has to offer. So we call ourselves a clinic in a box, and the product we deploy in the market is called a care station, and the care station has been deployed in 6 states across the country already, with active conversations in another 20. So we will be in about 26 to 30 states coming out of 2025. We have the ability to fundamentally impact millions of lives and bring affordable care into communities that in a lot of cases haven't had any access to it.
So talk a bit more about the care station, describe it for us.
All of the diagnostics, the vitals, the scans that you would expect in the clinic, the way to picture it is it's an 8.5 by 11 kiosk, right? You walk into this, the door closes behind you, the glass fogs up, so you've got complete privacy. You do not have to be tech savvy. We're rolling this out in communities where technology is a foreign concept. We're talking about communities in America, one of the most powerful countries in the world, where you've got third grade level education and sporadic running water, right? So we could not afford for the technology to be overbearing or overpowering. So you walk in, you stand in the middle of the care station, and you press the start button, and at that point the clinician picks up and takes you through the journey. The device ecosystem that the clinician can facilitate with you as the patient includes everything from temperature scans to blood pressure checks to pulse oximeter checking. If you've got sinusitis, you've got a scan of that. It scans your chest, it scans your lungs, it takes your weight. If you tell the clinician, I've got a bee sting, I've got a bite, I've got a rash, the clinician can deploy a high-def camera that deploys from the ceiling. It comes down, you can hold it against it, it's high-def, the clinician can immediately see exactly, what's going on with you, I've got a sore throat, you can hold it to your mouth. If they need to listen to your chest, to your lungs, they can deploy a step from the ceiling, you can hold it to your chest, and they can listen to it in real time. The care station is tech-enabled and human-delivered. and the entire experience is with a clinician on a 65-inch screen. So it's a life-sized clinician, allowing in tandem with all of that technology. So it's an ecosystem of devices and a live person that can be deployed anywhere. It's 8 by 11, 8.5 by 11. As we went into rural communities, we realized more and more, again, this is not a rural health solution. Places where there is broadband, it's easy enough to go with. As we entered more rural communities, we realized that 1, 2, 3 Mbps did not cut it. A lot of these communities did not have access to broadband at all. 42 million Americans have no access to broadband, right? And then when we look at 1, 2, and 3 Mbps, that number is probably more like 70 million. So we have natively integrated the care station with Starlink to be able to bring satellite internet to the care station. So at that point, all it needs is the ability to plug into a wall socket, and you've got a clinic.
So you seem to be quite focused on providing healthcare access to underserved communities in the US, and there seems to be plenty of opportunity there, probably enough to keep you going for a long time. But it seems to be a great solution for less developed countries, for example, where a doctor might be like a day's drive away. What plans do you have for international expansion?
We absolutely believe that the UK would be on our radar, the Middle East would be on our radar. We had to reach out from folks in the Middle East prior to Hajj. There are absolute opportunities in Canada. There's opportunities in South America. We want to create that U.S. beachhead so we can keep that flow going, and then we want to clearly enter global markets. And I would fully anticipate that as we enter Q4 of this year, we are going to be in active conversations about taking this outside of the U.S. border.
And so I think you outsourced your provider of clinicians. Would they be ready to deploy in other countries?
We would partner with folks locally, right? And it's incredibly important, as you can imagine, right? Because confidence in care being provided, the psychological comfort. I keep coming back to the psychological comfort because that is such an underestimated component of healthcare. A person walking in has to feel that they're going to be in a better place coming out of it. For that to happen, there is a very important construct of cultural competency that needs to be demonstrated by the clinician. Cultural competency is very difficult if you've got people in country A servicing people in country B. So we would look for local partners who we would partner with to be able to bring culturally sensitive and culturally competent care into the countries that we move into. We have, in every single location we've deployed this, we have local maintenance crews who would come in and do a cleaning if there's any fluid discharge, if there's an accident of some sort, right? So we've got that. 95% of anything we need to do in terms of the devices and troubleshooting and fixing them, we can do remotely. We have built this in a very IoT-like fashion where the devices talk to each other very natively, and it's the device interchange and the device interactions are very software driven, and that's been important to us because rapid scalability has to be a factor. If we're looking to make a dent in healthcare access, we have to make it at scale. It can't be intermittent or sporadic. So we've been very deliberate about how we've built this thing up, and that's exactly how we would deploy it. So even if we deploy this internationally, we would look for local maintenance crews to be able to come in at the end of each day and just do a full thorough cleaning.
From the Consumer Electronics Show, that's the company OnMed, and Karthik Ganesh was talking there to our new reporter, Jez Donaldson. And, you know, there's more where that came from. Jez has done a number of interviews, and we will hear them over the coming weeks and months here on the Somewhere on Earth podcast. Anyway, Wairimu, back here in the here and now, what did you make of that?
Well, it's a very interesting concept if I can adopt it to, let's say, the African context. I would say that you see there are very many places, especially in rural Africa, that still don't have access to healthcare, or it's too far, one can't reach and all that. So, but I think one of the questions that came to my mind was, yes, let's say if they were to have access to the technology, then it would be an issue of when you know what you need, let's say the medicine you need, is it accessible? Are you able to afford it? Is it too far to go to, let's say, the pharmacy or the local clinic to be able to get it? So, and then also there's these other aspects of, I still think that many people, and in rural areas, want to have a doctor talk to them, touch them. There's the aspect of health has a lot to do with like in-person, care as well. So I find that this would probably be a challenge to this idea.
Okay, thank you. We'll leave it there. So as I say, more from the Consumer Electronics Show and Tech for Good, I should say, from the CES in the weeks ahead. That'll do for today. Our production manager is Liz Tui. You've been hearing from Wairimu Gitahi. The editor and producer is Anya Liftarovich. And I'm Gareth. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi, everyone. It's Michael Calore, Director of Consumer Tech and Culture at Wired, here with my colleagues, senior writer Lauren Good.
Hello.
And Wired contributor Zoe Schiffer.
Hey, everyone.
We're here to tell you about our new podcast, Uncanny Valley, a show about the people, power, and influence of Silicon Valley.
Every week, we get together to talk about how technology and culture from the Valley is influencing our everyday lives.
We dig into questions like, will we ever get our privacy back? Is OpenAI for real? And how are Silicon Valley billionaires impacting U.S. elections?
The first episode of Uncanny Valley comes out on October 31st. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.